All right, everybody, welcome back to our DIY dog training. Today, we are doing a very important step in prepping Aries for a real hunt or a hunt test. Today, we're going to be picking up a live flyer. In particular, Aries is going to be picking up a cripple. And so we're going to go ahead and do the mark, and then I'll kind of go through some explanation of how we get through this. It's kind of hot today, so we want to get this going quickly. So we're going to line him up for our mark. I got my thrower down here. This is probably only maybe 60 or 70 yards. It's not very far. We're throwing in mowed grass today, this flyer. So let's take a look. Go. Sit. Aries. Come on, Aries. Here. Thank you, bird boy. Boy, Aries. Here. All right. So today, the purpose of our training is to working with live flyers is something that we need to do, especially if you're going to be running an AKC test. AKC retriever test will often use real live ducks, and virtually always they're a mallard. This is a pen raised mallard that we bought for this training purpose. Um, and it is very common in an AKC junior test for them to do a mark, what we call a live flyer. Right now, the purpose of the live flyer is exactly what it sounds like. A live duck is thrown out in the field and they shoot it on sight. Now, they do usually shoot with live ammo and actually kill the duck on at the test right that moment, as if it was a freshly shot duck. Now, I have seen many dogs run an AKC junior test and go out there and they shoot a flyer, and the dog goes out there to pick up this freshly shot duck, and they go, "What is this?" They have no idea what to do with a hot, freshly shot bird. And it's even more worse when you have what happened there, which we did on purpose, which was to shoot the duck but not kill it. So if the duck is live, you have a squawking, running around duck that may fly off or may flap at the dog or hiss or who knows what. You do not want the first time your dog goes to a hunt test that be the time they're going to pick up their first live bird, freshly shot bird, or even a live cripple. Because you may get a live squawking cripple. They may be dead, but the point is you need to actually prep this by shooting a bird for them before you go to a test. Very, very common to see a dog fail when they go out there and their first live flyer is at a test. That's a great recipe for failure. Um, Aries is pretty gung ho about this. We've done a couple of reps with live birds, and like most dogs at the beginning, they're kind of like, "Hey, what are we doing here?" And then once you realize what it was, it became a whole lot of fun. And that's what we want to see. We want to see the dog get very excited about the flyer. Because we want them to really, that should really, spice things up for them. Now, not every AKC junior test will use a live flyer. Some will only throw dead ducks. It just kind of depends on the club. Some do it one way, some do it another way. It's just kind of the part of the randomness, if you will, of hunt testing. But you definitely want to make sure the dog has had a chance to pick up a live cripple and freshly shot ducks. Now, the unfortunate part is that this does add a fair amount of expense to your training. A fresh live duck like this, a duck that will kind of fly, cost about $15 a piece. So you want to make sure that your dog is pretty far along, and confidently marking before you go spend money on a lot of birds. If you have someone local where you can just get one or two, and shoot them, and then it's great. Then you can throw them in the freezer or the fridge and reuse them. You can get a lot of uses out of them. I highly recommend that because it's definitely very expensive to just go shoot the duck, and then if that's the end of it. Um, So picking up a live bird is an essential part. If your dog, is doing a mark like this and they're not comfortable, the way that we get it started is we kind of go back to some of the puppy stuff, where we were, teasing the dog with the bird. Remember back in part 3 when we were talking about, introducing, real birds. It's kind of the same thing. We kind of tease the dog, get them excited, woo, go throw the bird out there. There we got a little bit of a fly around. So that made it exciting. Um, and you know, kind of use that dog's excitement to help encourage them to go get it. Now, Aries also is doing something really nice here. Notice this duck is perfectly fine. That is how a duck should be returned. The duck should not be crunched, should not be, if it is alive, he should bring it back alive. We don't want to see him having a hard mouth. Aries is very good at this, although he is very excited about this and wondering why I'm not throwing it some more. But if you're going to go to an AKC junior test, you need to make sure your dog has picked up a live duck, a freshly shot duck, before the test. Now, the other thing that I highly recommend is at a test, you will likely see a device like this when they are doing live flyers. This is a bird crate, and the purpose of the bird crate is to give us a way to hold the birds until they are ready to be thrown and shot. Because we do a lot of dogs in a row, we need to have some way to contain them safely. So bird crates are something that can really throw the dogs off. I've seen this a lot too, where the dog sees the flyer come out, sees it land, maybe even sees it land nice and dead, and starts to go out there. But then they see out at the gunner station the bird crates, or they hear, a bunch of live birds squawking or rumbling around, and they quickly get distracted and make a beeline for the bird crates, and then forget all about picking up their mark. That is a super super common problem at the junior level. Is dogs will be drawn to the crate instead of going to the mark that they saw fall. The fix for this, of course, is very simple. Let the dogs see that before you go to a test. This crate was not expensive. I think it was like 10 or 15 bucks. It's just a plastic box with a little flap on the end and plenty of ventilation, so we can store several ducks in here at once. I highly recommend when you're training, have a bird crate with real ducks in it, and let the dogs check it out. Don't make it a mystery, but instead teach them, hey, this is what a bird crate is. You're not going to get one out of there. You're going to get one out in the field just like normal, but we want the dog to see this. It's kind of like a super decoy. We talked about using decoys in the field. We've kind of introduced that in some of our marks before. We want the dogs to see things in the field other than just grass. Like there's going to be decoys, there may be bird crates, there may be people out there. Don't surprise the dog at the test. If this is something they're going to see, then come up with some way to replicate it. And if you don't want to spend the money on an actual crate, you could use an old plastic dog crate. Heck, you could use a laundry basket, with just put a piece of plywood over a laundry basket or something. Just give the dogs a chance to see the idea that there might be some other container with ducks out there in the field, when they're going to do their mark, because that will happen. And like I said, that's a super common way to fail. So, what we're doing with Aries here, he's very curious about the box, which is what I want to see. This is also a good thing for if you get live ducks and you've got dogs of different ages. Aries here is about done with his hunt testing training, and but if you have a little puppy, this is a great time to expose lots of dogs to the crate. Let them see this even when they're young, if you happen to have the ducks. I should also point out that buying birds is somewhat seasonal, so you cannot always get ducks. A lot of times in the spring, it's hard to find them because in the spring, most people are growing chicks, or ducklings or whatever. So a lot of times it's hard to find birds that will fly in the spring. Usually by late summer and fall, and then of course through the winter, people will have birds that can fly. So that's something to look at. It's also worth thinking about, if you're going to be doing something like this, and say maybe you're not so interested in doing, duck hunting, but you're really interested in upland hunting, and you're going to go on a pheasant hunt. I highly, highly recommend before you go on a pheasant hunt, go buy that dog a pheasant. Because if you've got a couple of live roosters that you can get and go out and throw them a live rooster, you can pull some feathers out to so they can't totally fly off on you, and give him a chance to experience a rooster before he goes out somewhere new. That's a great idea. Roosters, they can be kind of, they got spurs, they can be kind of wily sometimes. Hey, you got one out. Good. Here, good boy. Give. Good. Here, we'll get you. So give the dog a chance to experience live, real birds, whatever you're gonna hunt, and whether it's a hunt test, right here, come on, fetch here, give, good boy, and let them experience that before you actually go to the test or before you actually go on a hunt. No, no, he's got the trap door figured out now. Come on, give. Okay. Yeah, that's fun. All right. So anyway, that's a good look at how we introduce the dog to live birds, live flyers.